Wanted to share my journey of sailing, which started here about 5.5 years ago, sailing on these 14.5-foot Catalina Capris. And I had winds up to 20 knots. Most days were much less, but got experience running the mainsail and the jib on a small boat. It's right ahead of a big storm here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm out on Shoreline Lake and we have winds going to be up to about 20-mile-an-hour gusts later in the day, but for now should be fine. We'll start with the mainsail and see if we can use the jib, and we'll get sailing. All right, and we are sailing. All right, we'll do a first tack here. Fantastic. Ooh. So glad to be out here. All right. That's the kind of sound we like to hear. The water. All right, we're going to do another tack just to get the angle of the wind perfect. That's more like it. I'm going to do a run, or more of a broad reach. So this is where the wind comes a 45-degree angle behind the boat, so it's coming from behind my ear. And so now I've got the sails bluffing a little bit. You can see I can pull that one in a little bit, and it's catching the wind from the south to the north. Oh yeah. So I could go all the way across to what I call Bird Island over there. That's the first thing, being a sailor, I think, is getting orientation to the wind. All right, so now we'll head up. So the jib in the front is giving me constant power, and it's not adjustable unless I grab the line and adjust it, but I've got kind of variable adjustment with the mainsail, and that's where the 360 camera is, right there. And so as I pull it in, I'm going to go faster and it's going to heel the boat. And if I let the line out, it's like brakes. That's the fun part about sailing. You have control. You just have to know which way the wind's blowing and trim your sails, and the angle of the wind's super important. And then you've got your tiller in the back, which goes the opposite direction of the sails, and then the centerboard. I heard someone use an analogy of it's like squeezing a piece of fruit through your fingers, like a grape. All right, we're getting close to the edge here. So I'm going to go ahead and tack. Snap the jib. Let it come across. Block it in. Switch sides. Put the tiller handle behind me. That's a key. I used to spin around backwards and found that that's just harder, and you never want to take your eyes off your heading, kind of where you're going. So that was a skill that I learned right here at this lake. I noticed the wind was starting to blow pretty hard because you could see it come across the water, and it really kind of makes the water choppy, and so you can anticipate it coming. That's why I was already starting to get up in my high heel position like this, and yeah, and then you're just trying to heel as much as you can while not overpowering with the sails, because then it starts to skid. It's probably a sailing term for that, where you put the rudder all the way, and it slows the boat down. If you overpower the sail, it heels too much. But I like sailing on the edge, so that's kind of, at least in this lake, it's really fun. Okay, I'm going to do what's called jibe. You bring the main in close, and the wind's behind me, so jibes can be dangerous. Let's see how this goes. And that's it. No problem. Problem happens when the mainsail's way over here, and then you go into the wind and it whips over, and it can hurt the equipment and hit people in the head. I actually had one time where I got the boom in the head, and I know why they call it the boom. It's funny, when I was sailing here for years, I rarely ever did a jibe. Now it seems so easy because I've been out on the bay. And, bigger boat, bigger everything. But this is a very responsive, fun little, it's kind of like a sports car. Pretty fun. Yeah, this is basically the furthest part of the lake. Shallow ground over here, so we'll do another tack. Nice. Exactly what we wanted right there. Now let's see. Oh yeah. This is the angle I've been looking for right here. So to get the perfect angle of the wind, you can adjust the sails, bring them in tight, or let them out a little bit, or you just heel the boat with the rudder. And you can feel, there's like this sweet spot, they call it the groove, and the groove is when the boat heels and you're going pretty much as fast as you can. On the larger boat, it's all about hull speed, and the maximum hull speed on the boat I go on, the keel boat, 28-foot Catalina, that one can go about 6.5 knots. Remember what the hull speed on this one is. Have to look it up. Okay, we're about halfway up the lake from where I started this tack. We're on a starboard tack, which means the wind is coming over the starboard part of the side of the boat. And once I get closer to this land over here, we'll do a port tack. Alright, so it's starting to luff. I'm going to probably go ahead and make my move here pretty soon. Let's do it. See where this side. Get into the winch over here. Power. So this is what happens when you don't get your turn started. And get into no sail zone. Right about here. And then you go ahead and tighten it up. Alright. This nice thing about sailing is if you don't get it, you can try again. Unless you run out of space. And I've actually, when I got real comfortable with turning near the edges, I went too close and the center board cut into the mud. Because that happened to me, and I didn't have space to recorrect and gain what they call steerage over the rudder. When water stops running over the rudder, you can't steer a boat, and you basically become a piece of driftwood. And so I had to go on the bank and try to get off it. They actually towed me out because the wind was pushing me against the bank. So that's a nice place about Shoreline is they'll come with a rescue boat, and you're a little embarrassed, a little humble pie, but they'll get you out. And that's what we like. Okay, I'll give these guys a little bit here. Oh, here we go. All right, we're good. Pedal boats working real hard, and they have all sorts of different windsurfers and rowboats, kayaks, regular canoes. But I like sailing because it does take some effort, some muscle power, but you're not, the power to go forward is coming from the wind. I love it. Say it again, I love it. The thing that's always challenging is when the wind dies, and that's happened here where it was just glassy, no wind at all, and I was out here, and you can use the rudder like this to try to make it go forward, but it really doesn't work. And so again, they had to come pull me in. You can see there's the flag. I keep looking at the flag to see the direction of the wind, and it's looking good. Sitting on my jib again. Now you can see my angle coming in, hopefully from that other camera. Sweet. Now the question is, how do you stop while you're on a run? Take the line from around your foot, and I'm just going to turn it right into the wind. Yeah, that's it. Okay, that's how we do it.